Yeah, it's funny. It sounds so ridiculous now. And like, I don't talk about it that much, but obviously you and I do some work together. And I shared that one time when you were present. I love that you're forcing me to talk about it in public because it just sounds so ridiculous.
Hey, Matt Patrick Kelly here on the Knight's Path podcast. Super stoked to have the guest I have on tonight, Jeff Lerner. Hello, sir. How are you?
So good, Matt. Thank you. Excited to see you again. Obviously, you and I both know that we spent a week together last week at an event, and I'm just grateful to get to spend more time with you, man.
Thank you, bro. So for the folks that don't know, I have some mile marker senseis in my life, some teachers that have been really profound for me. Most of those have been like, police officers, SWAT instructors, martial arts instructors. And Jeff is my awesome life sensei. He is a success. He's a man among men. And we're going to dig into that. I'm going to put some things down there. If you haven't heard of Jeff Lerner, I'll put some things down in the description. You can certainly learn about him. But the dude's a hoss, man. The dude's a man. And when we talk about the Knight's Path about the physical, mental, and spiritual things that I think have to happen for you to be a whole and healthy man, we're going to dig into that with Jeff. So yeah. So with that, Jeff, me knowing a little bit about you, I know physically, when you were a younger man, you had a dream about being an NFL player. So let's kind of talk about what your workouts looked like then and how big you were then and how you were going to defy the odds, bro, and become an NFL football player.
Yeah, it's funny. It sounds so ridiculous now. And like, I don't talk about it that much, but obviously you and I do some work together. And I shared that one time when you were present. I love that you're forcing me to talk about it in public because it just sounds so ridiculous. Like I'm a 6 foot, 185 pound guy that, maybe I have a 28-inch vertical and maybe I run like a 4.9 at my fastest. I mean,
yeah.
I'm not like a horrible.
I ever ran too, 4.9.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a horrible athlete, but right. I definitely picked the wrong career if that was the one that I was going to obsess over. But for some reason, when I was a kid, it was like the glory. It was like, I know that I'm going to do something glorious. I just believed it. And there was nothing I could think of that was more synonymous with glory and being not just an NFL player, an NFL quarterback. Now, and at my best, I could throw a football maybe 45 yards. So God did not give me the physical gifts. I was never going to play quarterback in the NFL, but I just had this vision. And for some reason, and this is what I learned is it's not the end result. It's not the achievement of the if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans, right? So at some point I told God that I wanted to be an NFL quarterback, and in due form, he laughed. But that's fine because the work that I did starting in 7th grade, when I lifted my first weight and I just got up, and on top of this, I was a fat kid. So like I was running I was probably running like a 7.5 40 when I was like 12 years old. I mean, I was a heavy kid, and I found weights and I found fitness. And I found just the love of training. And I had a buddy who was actually a really good athlete, and he did play college football. And him and I started training together, and we would go research the most insanely brutal, just vicious workouts that you could find. And we would look up old school bodybuilders, guys like Mike Menser and obviously Arnold, and I love Mike Menser because he's like the thinking man's bodybuilder.
Yes.
Lou not Lou Ferrigno, but the Franco Columbu, the Arnold Franco workouts.
Yeah.
And we found this book that was written by Arthur Jones the creator of Nautilus, Nautilus workout equipment.
Absolutely.
And in this book were some of the most grueling workouts that I've ever seen. And there was something called a C leg workout. He had A, B, and C workouts. The C leg workout, it was like multiple sets of 10 on leg press with 20-second negatives.
Ooh.
So you're taking 20 seconds to eccentrically, lower the weight. And the joke was we would take our friends through the C leg workout. They would not be couldn't get out of bed. And for some reason, me and my buddy just got into this really crazy, almost like masochistic mindset. See, how much pain can we put ourselves through? Because to me, that was I just thought I will never have the physical gifts. The only thing I can control is that I can outwork people. Yeah. And as it turned out, that wasn't enough either to play in the NFL, but I like to think that's paid off in a lot of other ways because I still feel like I'm outworking people.
Absolutely. Well, I can tell you this. I looked this up because, everyone says your quads and stuff like this. And I was like a skinny runt growing up. My brother was he was an early bloomer. He was 2 years older than me. He got big and buff. But I remember my brother dated a girl and I would go hang out with him and her, and she had some hot sisters. So I'd go hang out with him, but they would call my brother Tricap. And the reason they called my brother Tricap is because he had these two big muscles on either side of his kneecap. Mm-hmm. And I looked those up, and you could say the quad because there's 4 muscle groups, but dude, your Vastus Medialis.
Vastus Medialis.
It's humongous, dude. Yeah. It is humongous.
Oh, you're saying mine is? You're saying I have a good Vastus Medialis?
Yes, dude. It's huge. It is friggin' huge. It's amazing. Amazing.
It is probably not since my crazy high school friend that anyone has complimented my Vastus Medialis. And Matt, I just want to say, I already really liked you, but I mean, you're just on a whole nother level for me.
Dude, I was looking, we were at the event, I'm looking, and I already, because you would do some stuff on our calls and stuff, and you'd stand up and I go, holy shit, it's that's huge. And then I was you'd sit across from me at the event, I'd and now I know it's your Vastus Medialis. I'm just friggin' humongous and super pronounced. It's got like a cliff drop off. I mean, your Vastus lateralis isn't bad either, but it pales in comparison to your Medialis.
Now you're just flirting with me, Matt.
I'm flirting with you, brother. But anyway, hey, holy shit, so I can tell you put the work in, but when you talked about one of your squat workouts with your trainers and you said ass to grass or it doesn't count, and I'm like, that's how you get a friggin' huge Vastus Medialis.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I mean, I don't know if your audience can see me. I'm not a big buff guy. I just love training. You know why I love the pain of working out? And it's the same. And I love the pain of hard work or even in digital marketing, creating a really good sales letter, a really good video sales letter that's 90 minutes, slide by slide, word by word, image by image, thought by thought, getting so engrossed in these things because it is impossible to be afraid or depressed or anxious or any of negative emotion when you are completely present.
Yes.
Anxiety is worry about the future. Sadness, guilt, shame is thoughts about the past. And usually we're taking our experience of the past and applying it to the future, and we turn ourselves into a nervous wreck. But there is no better way to get centered than to put a heavy weight on your shoulders and squat down and realize, oh shit, I got to get back up.
Yep.
And then you're not afraid. You fear nothing.
Yep.
Except maybe not getting back up, but you have control of that, right? Right? I mean, if you're going to be having anxiety, if you're going to have worry, at least worry about the things you can control. You can control the weight on your back. You cannot control the weight of the world.
Right. Absolutely. No, I love it, bro. So when you were trying out for the NFL and you realized,
sounds so silly when you say it like
no, that. But dude, bro, I was the same way. I was a late bloomer, man. When I graduated high school, I was 6'1", 155 pounds. And wow. I was a rail dude, and I wanted to be a wide receiver. I wanted to be a split end, and I could catch anything that was in. If I touched the ball, I caught it. But I was a friggin' toothpick, and you could just, the wind would blow me over. And I tried talent as well to, and I went to UT and I was a Longhorn, and I was like, I'm going to do a walk on, and I'm starting to beef up a little bit. I put on 20 pounds. Yeah, I'm 176 and I gained an inch, and I'm like, these guys are friggin' monsters, but anyway, it's funny. But so your physical then to where you're, because I'm 52, I think you're like about 10 years younger than me, maybe a little more.
Yeah, I'm 42.
Okay, so 10 years younger than me. I'm not trying to lift the house anymore. You're not trying to become an NFL player. Where's your fitness now? Because I know you also got into the nutrition and kind of the optimization, and so kind of walk me through where you were then to where you are now, and what got you there, and what sustained you. And
yeah, so from a fitness standpoint, it's been a struggle my whole life. I don't gamble. I don't sleep around on my wife. I don't compulsively buy clothes. I have one vice, and it's food. I mean, if I was going to go off the rails and be self-destructive, it would be eating myself to death. Like, I feel like everybody's got their thing, right? Their thing that gives them that dopamine. I don't spend hours a day scrolling social media, but man, if I get in a bad headspace, I can do some damage at a buffet. And so I've wrestled with it my whole life. That, I said I was a fat kid, then I became a fit kid. And that yo-yo, that dynamic, has never really left me. But it was in my 30s when I frankly did a lot of therapy, and I really started to prioritize. I mean, basically it's when I had a family, and I really started to emphasize, like, okay, I want to manage my quality of life for as long as possible so that I can have as much experience with my family as possible. My kids, someday I'll have grandkids. Like, I want to be like the 95-year-old great granddad that like still throws the ball with his great grandkid. I mean, that's what really got me thinking. And as men, we don't really start thinking that way probably till we're in our 30s. We're just too young and dumb and hormonal and whatever. And so for me, I'm 42. It's probably about 7 years ago. And also I saw somebody pass away from cancer, somebody close to me in my family. And I just had a really visceral experience of what it looks like when your health gets away from you. Mm-hmm. And my wife and I together, we just kind of made a decision, like, we're going to be healthy people. And since then, it's evolved, but I have a pretty mercilessly consistent practice of health. I have a tackle box full of vitamins and supplements that, I used to reorder myself. Now I'm blessed. We have a helper in our home who actually one of her jobs is to reorder my vitamins and put them in baggies every day. So every morning I just grab my Ziploc of my vitamins and supplements for the day. I get up at 3:30 every morning. I've been doing that for about 3.5 years minus. I took about 2 months off at one point just to kind of, be more normal for a few months, which I didn't like. So now I'm back to it. So I get up at 3:30. I'm at the gym by 4:10. Currently, this is my routine. I'm at the gym by 4:10. I do 20 minutes of cardio just to kind of wake up and get the blood pumping. 4:30, my trainer comes, I lift weights, and I do about 45 minutes of lifting, 15 minutes of stretching. So by 5:30, I've done 20 minutes of cardio, 45 minutes of weights, 20 minutes of stretching. Then I go play piano for an hour at my office. So I work a different part of my brain and body. And then I go home and pick my daughter up, and I take her to school, and I spend time with her in the morning. We usually go get breakfast, or at least a decaf. She likes decaf. She likes coffee, but she'll drink decaf. So we go get coffee together, even though she's 12. Yeah. And then by 8 a.m. I've dropped her at school, and I've spent time with my other daughter and seen my boys off, and then the workday begins. And for me, it's not even like the health is a byproduct of the routine. Right. But for me, it's about the routine. It's not about even so much the fitness or the aesthetic or looking good. Or I am a creature of routine. When I am in routine, I don't feel like there's a whole lot I can't accomplish in this world. But when I'm not in routine, I can barely make a grilled cheese sandwich. Like it just, life doesn't work for me when I'm not in my routine.
Yeah. So like oftentimes, and tell me, because this is where I think you and I super resonate as well. It's not just about the physical. So like the reason I separate the physical, the mental, and the spiritual is because I poured so much in just the physical that I ignored. And like, it was just like me pouring sand in this one sphere, and there were 2 holes it just kept leaking out of. And I was never going to have that one full until I shored up the holes in the other one. And then I could be a whole healthy male. But to me, you know, the physical is also part of the mental and also part of the spiritual. If I didn't have that, I couldn't become whole and healthy in other ways, because it level sets my day. It puts me in a great headspace. It keeps me in the present moment, as you said. So aside from the physical kind of helping your mental and your spiritual, you work another side of your brain with the piano. Does that help with the mental and the spiritual? And then what other things do you do? I know you take a 20-minute power nap, which I've gotten so used to as well. It's amazing how that can reboot you. But to heal, and then to the piano, the mental, the spiritual, and then some of the other things you do in the mind hacks that you might do throughout the day, the mantras or the positive self-talk. What do you do for the other 2 spheres to make yourself the most badass version of Jeff Lerner you can be?
Yeah. So, I mean, again, I totally agree with you that the physical, for me, it sets up my day because, and I just love this. I mean, I try to, they say comparison is the thief of happiness. You shouldn't compare yourself to other people. And I generally believe that, but there's also a very deep truth in the idea that if you want the life that most people don't have, you have to live the most people live. Right. And I just love that at 5:30 in the morning, when most people are not even awake yet, I have already done 80 minutes of very hard work, including heavy lifting. And I'm 42, so I don't try to go as heavy as I used to, maybe. But I am not, if I leave the gym and it wasn't really brutally hard, I just don't feel that good about it. Whereas on the flip side, if it was, I know, hey, it's 5:30 in the morning and I'm golden because I already did the hardest thing that's going to happen to me all day.
Right.
So then what, 6 hours later, somebody sends me an email I don't like or something. Right. Well, you know what? At least I'm not about to get crushed by a heavy weight. Like I already did the hard stuff. And that's what I love about it, is the way, like you said, it really just sets the tone for the day. As far as other things I do throughout the day, I'm pretty, I experiment a lot. Like I do, but I'm always usually doing some kind of a controlled eating window, like an intermittent fasting window. Right now I'm doing 10 to 6, which I get up at 3:30. So not eating until 10, especially when I've had a hard workout by 5:30, that's a pretty long time to just sort of be experiencing hunger. And sometimes I'll do like a bulletproof coffee to take the edge off. Sometimes not, but just to be experiencing hunger. Again, hunger brings you into the present. Yeah. Now, if you live in a constant state of hunger because you're deprived of food, then obviously you have plenty to be worried about. But for most of us, that hunger brings us into the present, and it actually reduces worry about the future for me. So that's a big, I use fasting almost on a daily basis as kind of a tool to bring me present. I do meditation. I have a really simple meditation routine. I'm not one of those people that says I'm going to meditate for an hour. I'm going to see how deep I can go for 2 hours or whatever. I use it as more of a functional tool. Just when I feel like I need to recalibrate throughout the day, I'll usually do it at least once or twice a day. And I just do what's called a box breathing, 4 seconds through the nose, hold it for 4 seconds out through the mouth, hold the exhale for 4 and in and out. And I'll just close my eyes and do box breathing and try not to have thoughts. Yeah. I'll do it for like a minute or 2, once or twice a day. And that is just such a great reset. I do the power nap, not every day, but many days. And then the other thing is that piano. I mean, every day I get to make beautiful sound. Yeah. And I think there's something especially as men, we don't really think of ourselves as like creating beauty on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's so essential for me. And I have found that it pays massive dividends for me in my work, in the way I show up with people, in the way I create marketing materials, in the way I do sales, in the way I do presentations, in the way that I just communicate. You know, I create a lot of content. Communication it seems silly, but you know, when I go in on a Friday, every Friday I go into the studio usually and shoot videos, either ads or content or trainings or whatever. I'm a better speaker if I have made sure to play my piano that morning.
Yeah.
So
music is vibration, energy, and intention, you know, and that's why I love playing the flute. You know?
Yeah. You know, I know, you know, man, I've heard you play the flute.
Yeah.
You're a big, tough dude.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there playing the flute, you know, and I love it. So, so like box breathing, right? So what I would ask you to do is it'll be easy for you because you're in shade, but because I used to do the 4 seconds, take it to 5.
Yeah. Okay.
Take it to 5 seconds, because what's amazing is once I started taking it to 5, and then after that, I just started taking it to whatever felt comfortable for me to release. But it's amazing when you start taking it to 5, and then, you know, you may only take 2 full breaths in 1 minute.
Yeah, that's right.
And talk about being in the present moment too, right? Because I use that as well to reset. But what that reminds me of, especially if I start my day with that, or if I was getting ready to go do a presentation or some kind of training or a seminar or a live speech, I would certainly do it. But, you know, when I catch myself during the day doing that shallow, it's like, whoa, dude, you can take 2 breaths in 1 freaking minute. Simmer down, relax, right? So that's awesome. No, thanks for that, Jeff. I got a lot of gold out of that and resonate with you. So the spiritual. So, and for me, when I talk about spiritual, because, you know, I've heard a lot of your videos, and you and I have been around, and I've known you for a year. And, you know, some people get the woo-woo shit, and I'm like a hippie in so many ways. I play the flute, and, you know, I will teach people love and peace. Don't ask for trouble, or you're going to get it, you know, whatever. But the spiritual is not just, you know, about believing in a higher power. It's also, for me, it's spirit. It's, you know, that guy's in ill spirits. That guy's in bad spirits. You know, it's also your mood. So for me, spiritual is not just believing in something greater than ourselves or how we can serve, but it's also your mood. How do you deal with spiritual? And then if you want to, you know, you can talk about that tattoo on your shoulder, because when you shared that with me, that was super profound. And I don't, you know, so anyway, I'll just.
Yeah, sure. No, the spiritual part of my life, you know, I'm a public figure. So I don't talk about it a lot, because I don't want to get portrayed as somebody who that's my platform. I have a sort of a spiritual egalitarianism that I really, really want people to feel open and supported in their spiritual pursuits, and not like, oh, Jeff's not the guy for me because we don't align on that stuff. Right. But I'm happy to talk about it. I'm deeply passionate about it. It's a huge part of my life. You know, I'll tell you this. One of my favorite quotes is, you know, religion is for people who don't want to go to hell. Spirituality is for people who've already been there. Right. And I am a very spiritual person. I also happen to believe in at least the foundations of a major world religion, which is Christianity. Right. I'm not going to say I'm a Lutheran, or I'm a Methodist, or I'm Episcopalian, or whatever. But I mean, I have, you know, you mentioned, I have biblical scripture tattooed on my arm, because these verses resonate to me. And I believe in the fundamental notion of salvation through faith and through the grace of our Creator, because I know as certain as the day is long, that I am a fuck up. Yeah. I am a mess. Yeah. And the notion that there is some sort of beauty and harmony in my destiny is not for 1 second because I deserve that. It is by the grace of someone or something that Jeff Lerner gets to enjoy his present and look forward to his future.
Yeah.
And I just know that. And so, I don't need to proselytize and get all preachy about it, but these are certainties for me. There is so much truth. When I became a Christian in my 20s, and by the way, I don't think I've ever talked about this on a podcast. Literally no one has ever asked me about it.
Yes.
And I would guess I've probably done 150 podcast interviews in the last 2 years, and literally no one's ever asked me about this. So here we go. I became a Christian in my 20s, and I was a hardcore skeptic. Like, I was not having it. And I read the Bible and I was like, meh, the style kind of lost me, like it does.
Yeah.
But it was actually 2 authors, C.S. Lewis and G.K. Chesterton, who, and I read Mere Christianity. I read The Problem of Pain. I read The Great Divorce, all by C.S. Lewis. And I was just like, when I read, what's the one he wrote after his wife died? I can't remember what's, it's just, I love C.S. Lewis is one of my favorite writers.
The Screw Tape Letters?
No, I did read the Screw Tape Letters, and that one actually, like, so good. So, cause that makes it so real. You see that stuff in everyday life.
Dude, that one for me was like, whoa.
Yeah. When you talk about spiritual warfare, I mean, there's some crafty devils out there, right?
Yes.
And then, anyway, my point is I just found a place of like, okay, now this makes sense. All of my businesses, most of my businesses start with the number 220. So like my old digital agency was called Zurley, but the actual operating entity was 220 Marketing Group. I had all my real estate businesses under 220 Investment Group, and that comes from Colossians 2:20, which is the first one I have tattooed on my arm. And Colossians 2:20 says, "Since you died with Christ to the basic principles of the world, why, as if you still belong to it, do you submit to its rules?" Since you died, and frankly, when I've talked about this, I've even been open to say, look, people can substitute their whatever, but we all as human beings know that we have a longing and a vibration in our heart and in our body that connects us to something that is not of this world.
Yeah.
I think we all feel that, however we try to explain it to ourselves. Whatever that is, since you died with that thing, the basic principles of this world, the superficiality, the materialism, the competitiveness, the judgment, all the stuff that we know makes us imperfect and human. You died with that stuff. You are not a part of that stuff based on whatever that eternal, ethereal resonance point is, right? Since you're dead to that, why, as if you still belong here, are you still playing by these rules?
Right.
That was the quote. And it hit me so hard. And it was like, finally, I understand why I don't feel like I fit in here.
Right.
I grew up, when I was a little kid, I used to have dreams about an alien to get me and take me home, because I have always felt like such a foreigner on this planet. And when I finally heard that I'm dead to the principles of this world, and it is on me to stop acting like I'm not and to stop submitting to these rules, I have been living for myself / higher purpose ever since I was set free by that realization. And that's my spiritual truth that I come back to again and again. And it's why, frankly, as an entrepreneur, I mean, you know me as an entrepreneurial educator and advocate, and I have Entre Institute. We're the largest educational or entrepreneurial education company in the world.
Yes.
And the number one thing that stops most people from pursuing the life that is possible as an entrepreneur is fear and risk aversion, right? They're scared. But all of those fears are founded on earthly principles.
Yes.
But if you're dead to those principles, you don't have to fear the same things.
So Jeff, like you said, like, was it when your 20s when you were
Yeah.
introduced to Christianity? And but you started your entrepreneurial journey when you were 16.
I did.
So there's a part of your soul that knew the truth that is you. And for 4 years, but then you were like, I just don't know why I'm a square peg trying to fit in a round hole. But it was in your DNA, bro, right?
It was. And I read, so the book that had the biggest influence on me in my teens was The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand.
Yes.
And it's the story of Howard Rourke, brilliant architect, designs things the world has never seen before. And he is just, constantly accosted and bombarded forces of his industry and the world that try to tear him down and destroy his genius. And I remember reading that and being like, I get it. Like, I get how this guy feels. Like, the world just doesn't get what he's all about. But Ayn Rand was an atheist. So the book had such a profound impact on me in wanting to be entrepreneurial. And also I was real into the mathematics of music and how, music has these constants, these constant variables that map over to physics and particle physics and molecular structures. And there's all these cool, crazy connections between music and like the nature, the laws of matter in the universe. Right. Yeah. So between seeing that sort of fabric of, connectivity between music and matter, and then entrepreneurship and freedom with Ayn Rand as a pseudo mentor who was an atheist, I went in a very rationalist direction for about 5 to 10 years, where it was spiritual to the extent you can be while trying to deny the notion of a higher power.
Oh,
and,
wow. Okay.
And so I was an entrepreneur before I was a believer.
Okay.
But anyway, and I have
to thy own self be true, but it's all on me.
Yeah, because there's nothing else to be true to anyways.
Right.
Basically. Yeah. Except each other, and other people suck. So, or except other people, right? So anyway, but here's the thing. So I had built a model for my life that cognitively made sense. It was logical to me, but I was miserable. That's what I can never figure out. I was like, why is this so unfulfilling? I'm getting to play music. I'm young enough that the fact that I don't have a lot of money doesn't really matter because I'm happy all the time because I'm playing, or I'm filled in what I get to do all the time playing music. I'm entrepreneurial. I don't have to report into anybody else. I don't live under anybody's thumb. I'm free as all get out, but I still feel a hole, what I ultimately described as a God-shaped hole in my heart. Yeah. And that was, I could never reconcile that until I found C.S. Lewis.
Yeah. That's the spiritual for me as well. I mean, I just filled the physical and I ignored the mental and the spiritual. So no, thanks for that. That was and I figured because I paid attention, I was like, oh, 20, but then I know that you started when you were 16, you had your job, you did it for 2 weeks and you're like, you got fired or shit canned or whatever. And you're like, okay, whatever, it's not for me. But there had to be some really heavy shit that happened in that 4 years. Right?
Yeah.
And you've never turned back, and to thy own self be true. And now, let's just say it started with wanting everybody that you could influence to have an awesome life. And therein started your journey. So let's kind of talk about that, if we can, is you were challenged. And this is where a lot of times in my life, I've been challenged by people. I've been pissed off. I've been turned off, and I've been like, what the F, man? And just like, why can't you, step up to my level? But I think, if I recall, there was someone that had said something about you and your wife's workout ethic and like, oh, that's not for me. And you're like, why are people like that? Why can't people, just live an awesome life? And that's what kicked the shit out of everything that this 3-year journey whirlwind of awesome school to Entre Badass and me being part of getting to interact with you. It's such a fucking amazing story a 3-year journey, but like, just like walk us through that, bro. Cause I love that freaking story.
Yeah. And it's funny. I have to credit you for being such an astute listener, because you've caught these little anecdotal things I might have just casually mentioned. But yeah, it was funny. It was fall of 2018. And I was coming off about a 5.5-year run of having a very successful digital agency that I've got, a few awards for and behind me. We'd been on the Inc. 5000 a couple times, and it was a great business. We were doing $5-6 million a year. I was the sole owner, 20-25% margin. So like, I'm pulling in, million, not quite $1.5 million, but life is so good. Yeah. Right. And then like, it all kind of started to deteriorate because honestly, I just kind of got antsy. And this is, I think, what entrepreneurs do is we have a good thing and the thing itself gets more valuable. But as the thing itself gets more valuable, we start to feel less valuable because our value is always about having cool ideas and implementing these ideas and building things. And like, it's like there was nothing to build anymore. The thing was running itself. And I probably got sabotaged the whole thing just so I could give myself something to do. And I ended up selling the agency in what turned out to be a pretty bad deal. A, I got paid less than I should have. Right. B, I got screwed out of roughly half the money. Yeah. And that was all happening around this time, end of 2018. And so I'm in kind of a funk, but I have a lot of resilience and belief in self. And so I kind of did what I do, which is I went back even harder to the gym. That's like where I go to find myself again. That's my walkabout, so to speak. Yeah. And I go, and Jacqueline, she's with me. We're going hard in the gym, going through this kind of tough phase. And she's telling her friend, it's so silly. It wasn't even me. It was her friend. Yeah. She's telling Jacqueline, my wife is telling her friend about her glute routine. She's like working her glutes out. Because, women are always trying to tone up their butts. Oh, yeah. She's like blasting her glutes 3 days a week. And I'm, of course, I'm doing my other crazy, I'm trying to do the break my squat, deadlift, bench press, cumulative record or whatever. Anyway, she's talking to her friend and her friend is like, well, my husband and I, we work out, but like, honestly, like we're not going to do, we're not like you guys. I forget what she said exactly, but it was like, we're not crazy like you guys.
Yeah. Lit your ass on fire. You're like, what?
Yeah. And for some reason, my wife was kind of annoyed by it because there was sort of like some passive aggressive criticism in the comment. Right. It was from like a good friend of hers. Right. And she passed it to me. And I was deeply irked by it. And it's funny because what I did was I connected it to the laziness and the lack of integrity in the business deal that I was getting screwed over. Right. Because when I sold the agency, part of the deal had been to go into the company that I sold the business to and actually consult with them and help them improve some processes on their side. And I had gone in and given them the keys to the kingdom, man, the full playbook on how to blow up their business in a good way. And instead, they didn't do anything I told them, and they blew up their business in a bad way. And as a result, they didn't have the money to pay me.
So I was like, they were like that woman insulting Jackie in a passive aggressive way, saying, "Hey, Jeff, I'm sorry, we're just not like you."
Yeah, and actually, it really was that because I had specifically given them consulting around sales processes, sales tracking, really creating performance standards and processes in sales. And basically the response was, that all sounds like too much work. Oh. And so then when she passed that thing on to me, it just triggered all my pent up frustration around people wanting to take shortcuts, people wanting to take the easy way, people wanting to half-ass. And I just lost my mind. I was like, babe, I'm so pissed off. I got to go for a drive. I went for a drive and I just started ranting. And for some reason I had what turned out to be the good sense to record myself ranting on my phone. I perched it on the windshield and I was just driving, yelling at the phone. And then I got home and I played it for Jacqueline. And I'm like, I feel a lot better. I just had a big vent session. And she goes, well, that's kind of weird. I'm not going to do that. But But anyway, I just sat on it and I kept rewatching the video, and I kept rewatching this video for about 2 weeks. I would rewatch it like once or twice a day. And it got where I started to have this objectivity about the guy on the video, where it was me, but it was like enough distance was happening. And I was like back to normal. And that had been me in an elevated state or an agitated state where it started to not even feel like it was me. And I realized I kind of like what this guy's saying. Like, I don't know who this guy is, but he's all fired up and he's getting me all fired up, even though it was me. And then I sent it. And so I sent it to my friend, Rob, who's like he was my crazy friend that I worked out with.
He's a crazy NFL guy. This is a real estate guy up in Grapevine and shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
You might have seen his interview. Yeah. And he's not too far from
you.
You.
The crazy shit in the mall.
Yeah. Yeah. We would mall walk. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Totally know who you're talking about. Anyway.
And so anyway, I sent him that video and he hits me back right away. And he's like, Jeff, I don't know what that was, but I want more of it.
Yeah.
So you need to post that and then you need to follow it up. Like he got all fired up. And I was like, well, shit, man. Apparently at least there's somebody else in the world that doesn't want to be lazy, doesn't want to slack. In fact, quite the opposite. He wants to get fired up like I am. Yeah. So I put a title on it that said, let's get extreme. And I posted it. And you can go see it on Facebook. It's got like 400,000 views. It just kind of that. And then I started posting more videos and I realized, man, and we're seeing this in the world today, by the way. I mean, this was 2018, but tell me this isn't the world today. There is an underground movement of people that are fed up with complacency, with softness. And I don't mean softness like kindness. I mean softness weakness. They are fed up with a world that is trying to, and emasculate women and make us all into what we're not and tell us how to be and rob us of our individual rights and accountabilities. And we're just pissed off about it. Mm-hmm. And I found that I happened to be giving voice to what a lot of people were feeling. And I think the thing that set me apart from a lot of other people that, whether it's Gary Vee or Jay Shetty or Tony Robbins or a lot of other people on the internet that are all fired up and getting people worked up, is I actually had a very specific set of skills that said, hey, if you're fed up and you'd like to create a life for yourself where you don't want to live fed up, you can actually leverage the tools of the digital economy to build a business that can change the quality of your life. And you don't have to live in all these, you don't have to be so frustrated all the time. Yeah. And that's Entre, man. That was the genesis of where we are now and where we're going.
So with that, bro, I mean, let's talk about your root, common denominators, right? So your 3 Ps, and then let's talk about virtual real estate, because that's how, you didn't just become a mouthpiece for insurrection and, hey, be independent and blah, 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 whatever, like so many fly-by-night bullshit gurus do. I mean, yours is like, and that's why you resonated with me. And that's why you have so many people that are loyal to you, because you're fucking real. And the 3 Ps to me is, in the video that I saw of you and the way you put it with the three legs on a stool, that becomes you. And it's, for me, the physical, the mental, the spiritual, right? So it's very similar. And you were talking to me, but then, you've got that, and then virtual real estate. And then, let's just take it away, bro.
Yeah, man. So I can give, and it's funny, I just re-recorded this. So the way this unfolded was I was just putting these videos out for about 10 months, like the better part of a year. I'm just building my audience, kind of revalidating this hypothesis that, hey, people are into this. People want more. Like this thing really has legs, right? Right. And by summer of 2019, people were like, Jeff, you talk about all these ideas. You talk about, how you can use the digital economy to get yourself free so that you can live a life of purpose and passion and intensity and go make change in the world. And, but like, how do we do it? And I realized that me just putting out stream of consciousness content wasn't structured enough. It didn't really give people a plan. So I basically had people telling me, Jeff, if you'll make a course, we'll buy it from you. So I was like, okay. So I locked myself in a hotel room and I sat down and I said, okay, if I was taking somebody from the beginning just give them the foundation to be able to at least go attack the world with the mindset and the perspective to be able to identify opportunities in the modern economy and actually have some basic skills to be able to seize them or capitalize on them, with a little bit of a filter that says, I'm not just trying to help people make money. I really want to help people build amazing lives.
Right.
And do good work in the world. Like if I kind of was just taking somebody A to Z, like the basics of that, and I built something called the Entre Blueprint, and it's essentially a 6-step process that takes people through. 3 of the steps are foundation, like kind of foundational elements of, call it how to be in the world. And then the next 3 steps are what to do in the world. And it starts with the 6 elements are basically this. It's the 3 P's of success, which are physical, personal, and professional, which are not dissimilar from physical, mental, and spiritual. I mean, these aren't new ideas. I happen to find 3 ways to say it that all start with the same letter, right? The 3 P's of success. And I built a concentric model that, I think the big shift, and it's crazy cool because in Entre, we've probably helped people shed even more pounds than we have generate dollars. I mean, we have, a lot of people come into Entre and they're 30 or 60 days into their journey. They're still getting their business up and running, but they're like, oh, by the way, I also lost 40 pounds. I mean, we hear this all the time because we heard
90 pounds this past week.
Yeah, exactly. And the only reason is because I set the physical as the first building block.
Yeah.
Physical, then personal, which is like your family and your direct relationships, and then and only then professional. In other words, you haven't even earned the right to want a professional result, i.e. money, until you are first tending to yourself and to the people you love. Yeah. What right do you have? You can't even take care of the 3 people that you share a home with, and you think you're going to go take care of thousands of customers and get rich? No, my friend. You've got that backwards, right? Yes. By the way, none of that can start till you take care of yourself. Right. And so I just put them in that order, and oh my gosh, people are like dropping weight left and right. It's incredible, and building muscle and transforming themselves physically. So that's step 1. And then you have the 3 legs of successful action, which I basically went back and said, let's look at every successful person in history and find the commonality. And I identified 3 things that they all have in common that I call those are the legs of the stool that you need to stand on because they can hold the weight as you're trying to get up higher in your life. And then the 3 phases of legacy is basically, that was my direct response to what I consider to be the endemic tragedy of the internet, which is it has changed our brains through attention and intention so that we do not take our time anymore. We do not accept delayed gratification. We do not play the long game. We want immediate results. We want dopamine now, and we want to listen to people who promise us that we can have it all and not have to do any work. Yeah. That's what the internet is. And I was like so bound and determined to be the anti-internet guru that I actually went overkill and was like, listen, guys, we're going to be thinking in decades or lifetimes. And the 3 phases of legacy is basically a way of elongating the view of success and prosperity into multi-generational thinking and actually looking at how real wealth is built over time and getting people out of the quick fix mindset. So anyway, those are the first 3. And then after that, I just basically walk people through 3 different, paths or business models or, modalities, whatever you want to call it, that all illustrate the basic point, which is that in the world we live in, there has been an inversion of opportunity. Now, bear with me. I'm going to explain this succinctly, but also thoroughly. So if you look at most of history, there's always been economies of scale, meaning as soon as somebody starts to get a little bit of power or mass or market share, it gets incrementally easier for them to get more power and more mass and more market share because you get economies of scale, right? Costs go down and leverage goes up. The internet is actually, this is the fundamental disruption of the internet when it comes to entrepreneurial commerce. It is actually easier to get traction on the internet as the little guy than it is as the big guy, if you're good. Now, the difference is the big guy is probably really good at what they do. Little guy, most little guys are also amateur non-professionals who kind of suck at what they do. So they don't benefit from this quality. But if you get really, and I am a living testimonial to this, I was very good at digital marketing and I was very good at persuasion, but I was a nobody who didn't spend any money to launch his business. And I was able to get traction in an industry going up again. If you look at the business education ecosystem on the internet, right? You've got Udemy, you've got LinkedIn Learning, you've got Masterclass, you've got Skillshare, you've got these big billion-dollar companies. And little old Jeff Lerner I'm not saying I'm bigger than LinkedIn Learning, but I'm growing a hell of a lot faster than they are. And frankly, at the rate we're growing, purely from a business education standpoint, we will be in a year or two. How? Because the little guy who was really good at what he did has an economy of micro scale advantage on the internet. This is, and Matt, I'm actually remiss, I've never said it this way, but this is why a guy like you, if you continue to hone your craft with a unique offer like the Knight's Path, bro, you've got a gigantic future. Because here's the deal: for let's say like, I don't know, what's an example of a company? Let's take Tony Robbins, for example. Right? He's kind of a category leader for personal growth. If he comes out and says, hey, I've got this, medieval chivalry, men's development concept I want to go out and market, and I'm going to go after, I got to fill my seminars. I'm going to go after millions and millions of people, right? Well, on the internet, the more people you target, the more people you try to reach, the wider the net you have to cast. Right. The less targeted, because the internet gives you all these targeting tools, the less targeted you get to be with your advertising, right? If you're trying to reach 10 million people, you can't narrow it down. If I'm only trying to reach 55-year-old women who jog 20 miles a week and are paid up on their health insurance, right? That's a narrow niche. So the little person who's only targeting that niche can advertise to that niche so much cheaper than the big guy who's trying to reach everyone. Right. And so, and I'm seeing it. Listen, I'll give you hard numbers. When I started Entre and I was just trying to spend $100 to maybe $200 a day on ads, I would, or even $1,000 a day on ads, I would acquire customers for, $80 to $100. That same customer, now that I'm trying to acquire 200 or 300 of them a day and I'm spending $1 million to $2 million a month on ads, that same customer some days costs me $300. It's 3 times as expensive for me now because I'm so much bigger, which means, frankly, the next little guy is who I need to be worried about. I don't need to be worried about Udemy because it costs them just as much to advertise as I do. And I happen to think I'm better at what I do than they are. It's the little guy I need to worry about because he can go out and acquire my customers for 1/3 of what I can. And that's what's so awesome about the internet. If people will take the time to do the work. Our vision, Entre Institute's vision statement of the world, is a world where anyone who is willing to learn the skills and do the work can unlock their full potential through entrepreneurship. And I actually think for at least the developed world, that is the world we live in. What Entre is trying to do is get the word out, because the sad part is most people live in that world. They just don't know it, because they've been systematically deceived and deprived of that awareness from cradle to grave by the educational system, the federal government that subsidized the continued fallacy of overpriced, under-returning educational investments into the big employment system that doesn't put you on a track to retire, that doesn't even give you raises that keep up with inflation, that's always trying to get more out of you for less. And I get that that's their imperative, whatever. They think they got to serve their investors, not their employees, right? Like, I get it. Yeah. And then you matriculate from that into a retirement system that's driven by banks who are run by people who don't even bank at their own banks, because their own banks don't sell the actual useful financial instruments that wealthy people use to stay wealthy.
That's what turned me on to you.
Newsflash.
Yeah. Looking at my 401ks, I was like, and I was listening to some of your podcasts, and I was like, and I looked at my 401ks and I'm like, I'm fucked. I need to listen to this guy.
And you have a good job.
Yeah, I make
By
six
conventional
figures.
measures, Matt Patrick Kelly is
4%
a
of
wildly
earners.
successful person, you know?
Yeah. And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, and if you do the math, I mean, I'm 42. Let's say I'm going to retire at 65, 23 years. Inflation, you know, depending on what stats you look at, runs anywhere 3 to 6%. So, you know, let's say it's a 4% conservatively inflation. What's that? Rule of 72. That costs are going to double every 18 years, 4% inflation. So if I'm 42, by the time I'm 60, this data right now says I need between $2 and $5 million net worth to even be able to retire. But that's in today's dollars.
Yes.
I'm 42.
Yeah.
It's going to double. By the time I'm 60, it's going to be anywhere from 4 to 10 million. And that's just to retire okay.
Right.
How many people do you know that have good jobs that are actually on pace to have $5 to $10 million nest eggs in the next 20 years?
Well, that's the thing, Jeff, is I got a lot of cop buddies that are retiring, right? And they're like, hey, I'm actually making more money now than when I was on because I'm not giving into my pension plan. But I'm like, what's that going to look like 5-10 years from now?
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, people that work for government agencies, I mean, that's kind of the last bastion of relying on pension is like teachers and cops and stuff. But that's just, I mean, that ain't going to hold water in 20 years. Like we all know it. Yeah. If they can't pay Social Security, they can't pay cops' pensions.
Well, and they're also one lawsuit or one cancer diagnosis away from being fucking broke.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I have 2 teenagers.
Yeah.
Like one of my teenagers accidentally, you know, gets in a car wreck and somebody dies.
You're done.
You're done. You're toast. I mean, how many people, you know, individuals can't even get insured for, you know, $2 million plus general liability policies. And even if they could, how many people do? Like, but you're right. You're one lawsuit away. You know, who was it? I can't remember. It was who was Elon Musk's co-founder at PayPal? Why am I blanking out? It's late in the day. Anyway, Hulk Hogan had to sue Gawker, a website called Gawker, because they had a sex tape of Hulk Hogan and they were like blasting his sex tape all over the internet. And he had to sue him. Oh, this is Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
He couldn't afford the lawsuit. He had to have a billionaire come pay his legal bills.
Wow.
And the billionaire said a single-digit millionaire in the world cannot afford effective legal representation in a federal court case.
Yeah. And that's what resonated to me. But not only that, like you said that, I watched that around the same time a buddy of mine, a safety mentor of mine was getting ready to retire. And I said, hey, Bob, when are you getting ready to retire? He said, I need probably about a year and a half more. I need $6 million in the bank. I'm like, what? Yeah, I can't retire unless I have $6 million in the bank based on how long I expect to live and how long I expect my wife to live and how long, you know, and I want to live at my 6-figure income and still be able to travel to Europe twice a year. And when he said that, I looked at my 401ks. I'm like, I am fucked, man. And then like you like happened to the law of attraction, whatever came, and it was like, oh, this is it. This is where I need to go. So I know we're coming up on time. So Jeff, like, the one thing that resonates with you and me, and like it's kind of your mantra, man, is entrepreneurs are willing to do hard things well. And I think I may be butchering that a little bit, but you know, speak about that, because that is, you know, there is, and I want people to resonate with this, and you have so much passion around this, but it's not only doing hard things well, it's when you accomplish that hard thing well that gives you the true confidence to be able to go from there and there and there. And it's just, it's kind of like, all I need to see is 200 feet in my headlights in the darkness, and then I can go across America, right?
Yeah, so we at Entre, you know, we've built a really strong culture that, you know, is the reason we attract amazing people like Matt, you know, people that have high standards for who they hang around, you know, and what they believe. And we repel some people because we say like I'll say to somebody, oh, you're not you're not successful yet. Well, I guess you just haven't delivered enough value to the market. Like, I don't know. What do you want me to say? Like, as soon as you've delivered enough value to the market, they'll pay you for the value and all your dreams will come true. Like, there's no way to sugarcoat it, and I'll say stuff like that. And people are, oh, this guy's a jerk. He's it's easy for him to say that because he's a white guy, or like, they'll just find their reason to dismiss me. Right. But look, I was broke, man. Like in my 20s, I was a broke jazz musician, like who nearly ended up homeless, except that my soon to be ex-wife's parents let me move in with them. Like it, I know what it's like not have delivered enough value to the market or found a way for the market to understand the value that you're delivering and thus compensate you for it. I know that life. Yeah. But anyway, so when we created Entre, we were really intentional about culture, and we really came up with some core value statements, and they're not our company core values. As a company, we have core values that, like, when we onboard new employees, we teach them our core values. These are what we call the Entre way. This is like, never mind if you work for Entre or you're a customer of Entre, a student of Entre, a fan of Entre. I don't care. We would have a better world if everybody lived these values. And that's what the Entre way is. Yes. And there's 10 of them. I won't go through all 10, but I will say that one of them is we eagerly do hard things well. And that's 3 statements in one. It's saying we do hard things. We eagerly do hard things, meaning we get excited, because you know what it means if you get to do a hard thing? It means you're not done yet. It means you're still kicking. You still got some fight in you. That's a prize that you should celebrate. You get to do a hard thing. And because we're so eager to do it, we're not just eager to do it. We actually want to do it well, which means we're probably going to need to do it more than once. We're probably going to need to do it with great intention and focus. And we're probably going to need to keep doing it long after the novelty has worn off. And then, and only then, that entitles you, that first of all, that forges you into the kind of person who can go out into the market and make the kind of impact that ultimately results in getting well paid, getting well esteemed, getting, just getting all the fruits of a great life, right? It's like, there's no shortcut. And what a better world we would have if everybody would stop looking for one and they just get excited to do really hard things until they're good at them.
Yeah, there's no half-ass and there's no fake it till you friggin' make it. It's bullshit.
Amen. That's how you can, what is it? You can hit a bag with a stick 52 times in a minute, or
I can do 136 hits in under 15 seconds or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Because you eagerly did a hard
things well
a gazillion times. Yeah,
right. Absolutely. Carving those neural pathways deep. Oh, by the way, I saw your Instagram video yesterday on playing the piano. And when you were talking about playing the 12 keys, just read that one, because that is a burning neural pathways deep, and then eagerly doing hard things well. So just read that and then like comment on it, give me a thumbs up, whatever. But dude, totally resonated with that. I love listening to you play, and I love the fact that you came on here, and you're my brother from another mother, and we resonate on so many levels, and I appreciate being able to, of all the podcasts, I got to bring up some shit that Jeff Lerner never got to talk about. Hell yeah, man. I'll put that feather in my cap, bro.
No, man, I appreciate it. It's been so fun to watch you, develop as an entrepreneur and really get this Knight's Path vision, like we were talking about before the show, that clarity, just getting clear on who I am and what I'm here to do. And then just putting in the work. Absolutely. It's been so cool to see, man.
Well, the thing is I'm surrounded by successful people. They inspire me, and, I'm not afraid to ask questions, and, I've got my big brothers and looking out for me, and sisters. So I couldn't be in a better place. Thank you so much, Jeff, for everything you do. I love you. Hug and kiss every member of your family before you go to bed tonight, my brother. And I will talk to you soon.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, Matt.
You bet, brother. Thanks.